Welcome to Ask the Expert, a daily series from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. Ask any questions in the comments or hashtag QBATE on Twitter. If you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. QuickBooks also have a dedicated information site to help you coming out of lockdown. Just go to the QuickBooks website, scroll down a little bit, and click on the big Learn More button under the header, Support for You and Your Business During COVID-19. And now on to today's session. I'm Jackie Fast. I will be running Welcome to Ask the Expert. And you may have heard of me. I'm best known for kind of being an entrepreneur. My first business was called Slingshot Sponsorship, where we predominantly helped small businesses, sports, charities, and online networks find sponsors for anything that they were doing. I set it up in 2010, which was right after the financial crisis, which was quite an interesting time, but also quite relevant now in terms of COVID-19 and how that's affecting both businesses, small and large businesses. And Slingshot was launched in London in a rented flat in a bedroom with £2,000 in a laptop. And I kind of grew it in 6 years. And by the end of the sixth year, we were working with global brands such as Shell, Red Bull, Sir Richard Branson. One of my first clients was Prince the musician as well. A lot of people kind of ask how I went from a rented, or at least starting my business from home in a rented flat, to working with such big global brands. And, I put a lot of time and effort into kind of like really being passionate about what you do. But quite honestly, a lot of it was timing. So coming out of the financial crisis, a lot of businesses were looking at trying to drive new revenue streams, sponsorship being quite an obvious one, just because it ensures that you can continue your activities in the same way that you've done previously, but drive additional revenue from them. So we launched kind of at a really, really good time, and the time is obviously topical for now. I think a lot of businesses are looking at how they can generate new revenue from the work that they're already doing, albeit probably the activity is scaled down or slightly changed considering we are sheltering at home and a lot of our businesses are done in home. So how do you make more money without having the face-to-face? And especially in terms of events, with events being canceled, a lot of small businesses and businesses generally are looking at what they can do to generate more income without kind of having those meetings, those personal meetings that you would normally kind of get used to in terms of generating clients and revenue. So in terms of what Slingshot did and how it worked, basically clients, which we would call rights holders, would come to us and with an event, a charity, a sports team, an association, and they would kind of hire us on retainer. We would go out and speak to brands on their behalf. We would basically kind of cold call, knocking on doors of big brands and asking anywhere from, some of the first deals that we did were only a couple £1,000, but that couple £1,000 was pretty important to the businesses that were looking to utilize that in terms of growth and just even keeping afloat. At the end of our sixth year, we were doing deals upwards of 15 million. But one of the things that we found that I was actually really surprised at when I started my business was that those people that were looking for just a couple £1,000 were almost finding the same kind of challenges as those other events and other businesses that were trying to look for 15 million. So the Queen had the same kind of concerns that a cancer research charity would have, which is kind of great. It allows you to create really good advice around how to secure sponsors for your event in a really streamlined way. And it means that it doesn't have to be so tailored, and advice can be given, I guess, in a general way. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people assume that they understand how to secure new revenue streams through sponsorship just because you see it on the papers all the time, especially with sports teams, with sports stars finding new brands, kind of throwing their logo on stuff. But unfortunately, brands today are looking for more meaningful relationships with the associations and collaborations that they utilize. And it's about how you speak to those brands. And once you kind of have, I guess, a bit of a different view that's not perhaps so insular, and instead looking at what the brand is trying to utilize, sponsorship is relatively easy to do, and a lot of people can generate significant funds through it. I ended up selling the business in 2016, just 6 years later, just because it was the right time and I wanted to do other things. But one of the most important lessons that I found is really looking at how we could help more people. So I actually wrote a book, which is called Pinpoint. It's an Amazon bestseller. You can find it online. And it really is about how challenging the norm is the only route to success in selling sponsorship. So again, it's called Pinpoint. You can find it on Amazon. But really, it's 6 really easy tips on everything that I learned in my journey on my first business. And it's helped a number of people kind of looking to drive additional revenue. And I mean, no time is more important than now to do that. Following the sale of Slingshot in 2016, I went and did a number of different things. I kind of wanted to take my experience with intangible things. So selling sponsorship is effectively selling an idea to a brand and obviously implementing that idea out. But I wanted to do things that had more tangibility just for different kind of experience. So I bought a vineyard and I have an ice wine brand called Rebel Pie Ice Wine, which is a little bit of Canada brought to the UK. You can find it in most Michelin star restaurants in London, but you can also find it on our website, www.rebelpie.com. I also made a number of investments in fintech, luxury handbags, and B2B, the money platform being the fintech one. I was really looking for disruptor businesses that were doing something different that I could help scale up, which has been really great. And one of the other things that has been keeping me busy is that I am on to my second book, which is called Rule Breaker: Rebellious Leadership for the Future of Work, which looks at how digital technology has shifted the way we interact with each other, with the way that shapes businesses, because effectively communications really is all about business. And it goes kind of back to Silicon Valley and the roots of big tech and how that has kind of infiltrated in both positive and negative ways in the way that we work. And I think that's really interesting right now, just because all businesses are now, I mean, most businesses are working from home and having all of their employees work from home. And I mean, everybody's doing forced flexibility in terms of work-life balance. And yeah, I think still people are struggling with the work-life balance, or at least with the balance at this stage, in terms of trying to deal with, school for the children whilst working from home and trying to have enough laptops to do homeschooling. So, I mean, it really, really talks about that kind of topic. But, my experience is very broad range in terms of business and marketing and entrepreneurship. So I'm really looking forward to getting all your questions. So please send them through. I'm going to kick off with the first question. Sandy from Facebook Messenger asked, last year, my company really grew and now we're 11 people. I've learned so much as a leader, but also made many mistakes along the way. Do you have any advice for new leaders? It was not something I've learned in school and not been working for many companies before I started my own. I'm 27 years old. Well, Sandy, this is very interesting. I set up my business when I was 25, and I had never even managed a single person before I did that, let alone run a business. I think the biggest thing, especially when you're young, is to not take things for granted and expect to learn on the job. And I mean, I would never say, like, I think failures are probably, I think most people are too hard on their failures. I think failures are an opportunity and a stepping stone. So for me, there's nothing like a failure. I think there's a great quote from the founder of Dyson that, all of his prototypes were failures, and then his one vacuum was a hit, but nobody saw the 5,000 or so prototypes that he made. So look at every step as a learning experience and make sure to learn how you could have done better once you've kind of done that. And I think being young is a positive thing. And I honestly think having no experience sets you up better sometimes than having a lot of experience. The world is very different now than it used to be even 10 years ago. So, the advice sometimes from seasoned pros or the experiences that you might have had 10 years ago are not really relevant now. And I actually talk a lot about that in my new book, but it's important to have confidence in your ability. And I think, do a good job and work really hard. And I think fundamentally those two things will see you through. Next question. We've got a question from Nico from Instagram DM. Hello, Jackie. I'm definitely going to order your next book. Great. Very good. Who or what inspires you the most when writing your books? My first book, Pinpoint, was based on everything I had learned. So I sold Slingshot with the idea that I would do something completely different. And I wanted to help because I think so many people struggle with sponsorship and they really shouldn't struggle, I guess. It is relatively easy. The problem with sponsorship is that so much information is out there that is wrong or misleading. And I wanted to provide a book specifically for sales to help other people find new sponsors. So everything that I talk about in my book is everything that I've been telling clients or working with clients for the past 6 years. My new book, Rule Breaker, is about rebellious leadership and how leadership today needs to be rebellious in order to be extremely successful. And a lot of the businesses that are thriving really are ripping up the rule book. And it kind of provides the confidence, I guess, to go your own way and why that's important. The inspiration for that, are questions like these. I think a lot of people, I speak at a lot of events, I get put on a lot of pedestals, but quite frankly, I had no idea what I was doing, and I still don't. But I think a lot of the thing that has made me successful is I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to try. And I think that a lot of people are often too scared to take that leap, to consider leaving their job and setting up a business. And I'm the first person to tell you, I really do truly believe that being a business owner is relatively easy. If you're prepared to work incredibly hard. But I think there is so much out there that freaks everybody out before they take the leap. So the book really is inspired by trying to help people on that journey and really trying to look at what's gone before to help people be more rebellious, to tap into their inner rebel and really go out there and, achieve great things. And that doesn't even need to be setting up a small business, although, that's a great thing. It can also be within your community. It could be a charity. It could be something that you're passionate about, like a cause in terms of activism. But I think it's really important to kind of tap into that inner rebel in order to kind of make change happen for yourself. Next question, Nath from Twitter, DM. Hi, I have 2 failed startups and now my third seems to take off. Do you have any advice for entrepreneurs? Most days my drive and passion keeps me going, but other days it can be very lonely building your dream company on your own. So I can completely relate to this, Nath. My business was all by myself, and for the first 5.5 years, I was desperate and, always dreamed of having a partner. But I will tell you, at the end of my 6th year, when I sold that business and I owned the business 100%, I could not be happier being the only person in my company driving my own idea. So I think you have to expect that businesses are a roller coaster journey. And I think some of that is the thrill. I certainly have had some of my highest highs and my lowest lows while being a business owner. And I think that's what makes it so much fun. So I think just keep the self-motivation up. And it sounds like you're doing a great job because you talk about your drive and passion keeping you going. And quite frankly, that is what keeps everybody going. And so my advice is just, really, accept it. Accept that some days are going to be terrible and some days are going to be great. The other thing, actually, I would probably say is somebody told me this, and I thought it was really great advice. Sometimes you work really, really hard and you don't notice how hard you're working, but your body does. And so if you notice yourself getting headaches, but you don't feel stressed, or, maybe your elbow hurts, and you don't feel stressed, but your elbow all of a sudden acts up. A lot of the times your body kind of reacts to stress before your mind does, especially if you're used to working really hard. And I would definitely recommend taking those cues. It was advice that was given to me when I was kind of at my most stressed moment. And I think understanding that and being able to kind of deal with your stress before it becomes a problem, because you're paying attention to your physiological symptoms, is, a very good entrepreneurial trick. Next question, Rachel from Twitter DM. We're looking to sponsor an upcoming awards event that recognizes some of the country's best marketing initiatives. Does sponsorship work and generally drive sales? Can we rely on good ROI? So I think the question is a bit chicken and egg. I think that you need to look at what you're purchasing and why you're purchasing it. Most of the sponsorships that fail they fail because there are no clear objectives. So if you're going to sponsor an awards program, you need to understand what it is that you're trying to get from it. If you're trying to get new clients and new business, then my recommendation would be to ensure that some of the assets that you're purchasing through your sponsorship are tickets to attend the event. And rather than give those tickets to, I don't know, people in your company that have done well, like the receptionist or the HR manager, I'd ensure that all tickets go to your salespeople and those salespeople work the room. So assets in terms of your sponsorship package are down to you, and you need to figure out how to use them most effectively to ensure that they meet your objectives. A coveted sponsorship with logo badging on the screen at the awards is not going to do it. If you're looking to drive sales, you need to implement the right marketing initiatives at that event, and sponsorship will help you do that. So it's important that you work the sponsorship rather than just pay the sponsorship and expect people just to fly to you. Next question, we have Ian from Instagram DM. Morning, how do you decide what to invest in? Honestly, I want to invest in companies that are going to make me money. So that is the first start. Second start is I usually know how much money I'm looking to invest, and I know how much equity I want. And so that then is a precursor to almost all conversations. So that's almost like going into a shop and understanding how much you're willing to pay for stocks. And you kind of, when you are an investor, you kind of know what to expect and what kind of equity share you're looking for at that time. And then honestly, I work with a number of referrals, and my accountancy and investment firm kind of helped me with it. But one of the big investments that I made recently was through a friend. So, I mean, it comes everywhere. One of the things I will caveat, because I get asked to invest in companies probably like 10 times a week through LinkedIn, that it will never work. I will never invest in your company by following a LinkedIn message, mostly just because it's kind of unsolicited, and no matter how great your investment opportunity is, I mean, it's kind of like a dime a dozen. So if you are looking for an investment, one of the things I would recommend is, take the time to really contact the investor that you're looking to bring on board with something like really salient. Don't just reach out via social media or LinkedIn. It's not the acceptable channel. Next question, Katrina from the Twitter feed. My question is how to make the most out of my TikTok account with 30,000 followers that is 2 months old. Okay, Katrina, I am super sorry to say this, but I am super old and I don't even have TikTok. I don't know. Basically, in terms of Instagram, I mean, I'm hoping I can kind of relate it to that. But with Instagram, normally what happens is brands will reach out to you. I would assume the same thing is with TikTok. So keep doing what you're doing. The second thing I would probably say is if there are brands that that work with, promotional ads on TikTok, then you might want to contact them directly by DM and just say, hi, have you seen my channel? This is what I'm about. These are what my followers are interested in. Would you like to work with me? is always never a bad shout. I don't ever think cold calling or cold DMing is a bad thing to do. Next question, Angie from Facebook Messenger. What does it take for a startup or company to be able to attract sponsorship? What are they looking for, and what advice would you give for the best possible chance of success? So again, this is like how long is a piece of string? But startups, so I mean, I would need to know more about what your company is. Typically, companies don't get sponsors. It's the events and it's your audience. So in order to generate sponsorship, you need to have an audience. And the more niche your audience is, the more valuable it can be. It can also be the larger your audience is. So for example, the 30,000 people on TikTok. The bigger your audience is, the less niche it needs to be. So in order for it to be valuable, I would need to understand really what you've got. But quite frankly, a lot of the time, the problem that people can't get, or the problem people face in terms of the challenge, is that they can't communicate the opportunity well. And oftentimes that lack of communication from a sponsorship standpoint or from a brand perspective is what makes it a non-starter. I don't even want to say that brands say no, because you can't even get to the stage that brands even care to get it. Which is also why I'm like really not trying to plug the book, but really check out Pinpoint, mostly because it talks about that. So if you're looking for sponsorship, it's not a one size fits all thing. So I mean, you asked the question, and as you can see, I can't answer it. I need specific details, because if you were a company that was creating wind chimes, for instance, would be very different from a startup company that was doing blockchain and had a number of corporate events, for instance. So the way to approach brands and sponsors and getting sponsorship would be very, very different. But there are some fundamentals around communication of how you would go out to brands to request that money. So I guess, I mean, in terms of advice, get help, whether that is seeking out information from people who do sponsorship on a regular basis, ask questions, look on blogs. I mean, you can buy my book, but you don't need to buy my book. Just don't think that you can knock on Nike's door because you've got a great sporting event and that they'll give you money, because honestly, they get tens and thousands of unsolicited sponsorship proposals a year. And unless you are able to really stand out and articulate why Nike should be a sponsor of your startup or your company, then it really does fall on deaf ears. So it really is about making sure you're going out to the right brands that are appropriate for your platform in the right way with the right message. Next question, Pravin from Facebook Messenger. Morning, Jackie. What made you passionate about sponsorship the most? Honestly, I did not know I was passionate about sponsorship. I got a job in sponsorship at the Direct Marketing Association, and at the time I had to Google what sponsorship was, but my background was in marketing and sales, and fortunately the marketing director in the business thought I could do a sponsorship thing for their business, which I took on wholeheartedly and found that I loved it. And I mean, what makes me passionate about sponsorship now, and quite frankly, I could geek out about sponsorship till the cows come home, is that it's challenging in the fact that not every sponsorship is the same, because you've got two different variables. So let's say you were just selling football, your football sponsorship with 5 different brands. Let's say one was, finance, one was a shoe company, one was a book company, one was, finance company. All the activation in those sponsorships are very, very different. And you have to really think, you have to be quite clever and strategic. I mean, if you're going to do good sponsorship, you have to be quite clever and strategic in creating great platforms and great opportunities and things that audiences want to share and get behind. And I love that. I find it challenging and exceptionally rewarding. And I really like working with people. And that is really what sponsorship is all about. So, I mean, I love sponsorship for all of those reasons, really. Beth from Facebook Messenger. Because of COVID-19 and the uncertainty it brought, I've started to explore different ways of making money. Good for you, Beth. Would you recommend investing or doing a consulting job on the side? I mean, for sure. why wouldn't you want a side hustle? For me personally, I would always do stuff on the side. So definitely go forward. I would also say COVID-19 is very, I guess, you can't really plan for the future. So if I were you and you had the option to do all these side hustles, I would definitely take the reins and go forth and do that. Debbie from Twitter DM, hi Jackie, was it hard letting go and selling your business in the end? You must have invested a lot of time and passion amongst other things into it, or was it straightforward with what needed to happen? Honestly, this question is very easy, Debbie. No, it was not hard. I was super thrilled. I made a ton of money, and it was the right time to sell. And selling afforded me the luxury of doing a whole bunch of stuff I didn't have time to do, like writing books. I spent a year traveling and doing fun things like going. And I think, you have to know when to sell. And I could have, still been doing the same job, but I like a challenge. I wanted to do something different. And personally, for my time, I was ready to sell. So it wasn't hard at all. I didn't feel like it was my baby. I was delighted. I mean, personally, I think a business should be built to sell. And if you're a business person, then you should have no problem, making those big business decisions. Next question, Jack from Twitter DM. What's your best business advice to be successful in one's career? This is very easy, Jack. Work hard. Work harder than the next person. I think a lot of people see the Insta famous from social media and assume all these entrepreneurs make it big very quickly. That's not true. Everybody I know works their tail off. So my one and biggest piece of advice is work really, really hard and be prepared to work harder than the next guy. Next question, Harvey from Facebook Messenger. Hello, Jackie. Where do you think the future of sponsorship lies? I think when most people think of sponsorship, we may think of tickets, hospitality, branding, etc. Interested to hear your thoughts on where it could possibly go. Well, I mean, I think you're seeing a lot of it now. I think a lot of people rely on the physical, but actually online creates a lot more opportunity for data capture and analytics, which is actually really, really important to brands, which is why they jumped on the social media bandwagon as quick as they did. You can see a lot of brands as well jumping into the esports bandwagon. So I think that online is a huge, huge opportunity and has always been. I just think more conservative brands are looking at that. And that's where I think the future is, or at least for the short term, especially when we're dealing with COVID. So that's it from me. The session has been short, but very sweet. And any questions, get in touch with QuickBooks support team on Facebook, or you can contact me via Instagram or Twitter at JackieFast, or find me online through my website at www.jackiefast.com. Coming up on Ask the Expert tomorrow is Ariona, Managing Director for Majors Accounts. That's been nominated for Independent Firm of the Year, Greater London by the British Accountancy Awards. Ariona has also been nominated for 3 awards for the Women in Accounting and Finance Awards 2020. Tune in tomorrow and ask Ariona your burning questions. A reminder that if you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. And that's all from me. Thanks so much for joining me this morning.